Hello, this is Quentin, and in this video I'm going to be going over my recent game versus Il Principino. He was at the time ranked number 1 as Axis and went 50-0 at one point. I went for my standard 4 infantry, 2 tank opener. This is primarily to dead zone Karelia on Germany 1 and give Russia some much needed space on Russia 2. I went for the 12 West Russia 9 Ukraine attack. This went very well, especially the Ukraine part, where 3 units more than average survived. I put my anti-aircraft gun in Ukraine to be extra annoying, and I leave 1 Russian infantry in Buryata. I also send an infantry to Shizvan. This is very important, since if not, Japan can go for a pretty easy kill on the US fighter on Japan 1. So on Germany 1, he decided to use the battleship to retake Ukraine. This is very good for me, since it allows me to kill the battleship using the destroyer, a fighter and bomber, and not take a bomber as casualty as I usually would have. He also went for a 5-1 split on the UK destroyer and Season 7. And it looks like he didn't even manage to clear Season 7 with any naval units surviving, but he did win the coin flip on the UK destroyer. This allows me to go for a greedy 1 carrier 1 transport buy over the usual destroyer buy. Since he also placed 2 fighters in Libya, there's almost nothing in range of Season 7. Here you can see the bomber survived, the destroyer dies, but this is of no consequence, and I get my navy off. I also am gonna be a bit cheeky with the UK-India carrier and place it as annoyingly as possible, so he can't both go for the free transport with his Japanese planes and clear the carrier at the same time. In this particular game, it doesn't matter as much because the German plane can clear the destroyer, but you gotta be as annoying as possible. I also cleared the Season 61 China with a cruiser and a plane, and placed the plane in Shizvan. So for US 1, I go for a carrier and 2 transports and ground to fill them up. I kill the German submarine, and I also am able to go for a trade in Anvai, since he got unlucky on that trade. And I send the US fighter up to, since I can see that it doesn't have that many planes in range, since he placed so much in Kwangtung. So I'm going to try and stack that province and preserve some income for Russia. And I send everything east towards Germany. In this game he skipped Pearl, so I'm going to have some extra naval units during the course of the game. So here for Russia 2, I get 4 infantry, 4 artillery buy. It's pretty strong, and this is here we can see the great benefit of the 2 tank buy round 1. It dead zones Karelia, so now I get to trade all the neighboring provinces, and I don't even need to concern myself at all about how many units I need to keep in West Russia to stack it. And here I sent 1 additional infantry to protect against Japan, and all 3 trades were successful. So a bit of history. I've played Il Principino 2 or 3 times before, and I know that he's going for this peculiar early Africa attack with Japan with a lot of fighters. So I decided that the best way to try and counter this was to lightly push China with Russia. So you're going to be seeing me try that the next few rounds. So for UK2, the most important part is going up to 3 transports. So that's what I'm doing. Since my bomber is also alive, I'm just gonna use it to strategic bomb Germany. Nothing to lose there. Except the bomber, of course, but that's more than worth it. I choose to land 1 infantry in the northwestern Europe, since I need to protect my transports, except I just now see that I don't. Alright, yeah. I arbitrarily decide to land in northwestern Europe instead of Baltic states. And that's all I do for UK. My bomber survives, luckily, and does some amount of damage. And I get my transports. I also move a fighter over to Russia to actually get odds to hold it. And I leave 1 infantry in Egypt to make it annoying for him to capture it. He'll need to commit actual troops to capture it instead of just needing to blitz. And for US1, I get an additional set of transports. I decided to go maximum infantry, since I know that he's gonna go for Africa here. You can already see he sent his Japanese transports down to Thailand. So the plan is to vigorously contest Africa and hope for the best. I go for a second bombing on Germany, and I capture Norway. You should always capture Norway as soon as possible, because this is permanent income. That's very impractical for Germany to recapture. Yeah, I captured Norway, and the full fleet is coming down and preparing to land in Italy and Southern Europe on United States 3 turn. This is what I call the Mediterranean shuck, and it's my primary strategy as allies. And here we see the Russians start to contest China, because as you can see, he's landed all his troops down in Thailand, and China is totally open. He's landed some additional troops to push my Russians further back as well, but this still leaves him with nothing to take China with. And he did get the Karelia stack off, but that's of no concern to me at this point, because I'm very happy to just be trading. Especially this big trade in Belarus is very favorable, I think. I take both provinces. I invest 2 tanks into killing the Belarusian stack, but tanks are there to be used, so that's what I'm using them on. And we can see that during his Germany turn, he actually failed to trade West Russia, and he pivoted his entire stack from Karelia down to Belarus. This leaves Karelia open, which I'm going to retake with UK. And UK is going to be landing in all available provinces this turn. Northwestern Europe, Baltic States and Karelia, using all my transports. And we see he's left Italy and Southeastern Europe open, and United States is going to be landing there on their turn. He went for Egypt stack despite me having odds to clear it. I think his plan is probably to retake it with Egypt, and I realized afterwards that I could have bought a destroyer here to just totally block his Japanese plan and deployed it in India, but I didn't think of that at the time. And here we see I got a very favorable retake on Egypt, and I managed to land. I bought a full complement of infantry, 6 units in Great Britain and 3 ground units in India. Here we can see, as predicted, he did land 3 Japanese units in India, and but that'll be a problem for future me. I use my tank to blitz through to Libya, and I land in every available province in Germany. I also go for a strat bomb on Italy. I get an industrial complex into Norway, because that's a pretty efficient place to get a complex. Industrial complex is only 1 IPC more than 2 transports, and in this case the utility of being able to deploy naval units in the Norway Sea zone is very much worth that 1 IPC. Here we can see this is what I call the round 3 timing push, where you get a lot of pressure round 3 and also a lot of income from all the contested provinces, which is the goal of the Mediterranean shuck. As you can see, he didn't manage to actually clear the retake the China province, but he did clear it with his fighters, and he sent his tank to contest it. For Russia, I don't have odds on any of the provinces, so I'm just gonna go retake Romania, but I'll have to abandon my Ukraine stack here. As you can see, I abandoned my Ukraine stack, went back to West Russia, and I sent more infantry east towards Japan to really annoy him in China. If it doesn't clear the Shesvan infantry, I'm gonna even be retaking the coastline, which is quite frankly hilarious. So there are no real good options for Germany here. Whatever combination of trades, there's always going to be some holes left open. And this is one of the great strengths of the Mediterranean shuck. you hit everywhere, and he can't defend everywhere. He used this France stack and pivoted up to Northwestern Europe. That's fine, but he traded a lot of other provinces. So here I'm going to be able to trade Baltic states, Belarusia, and Karelia, and he's not even going to be able to retake Karelia. So at that point, the flow of allied units into Europe is going to be unimpeded. I'm also going to be able to retake both Italy and southwestern Europe. So this is going to be draining a grand total of 8 units from Germany. And he only produced 8 units, as far as I can tell. Getting more air, since he doesn't have enough production slots. Actually, I did fail the retake in Baltic states there, which is unfortunate. But that happens sometimes. And you can also see I went for a pretty heavy trade in India. And I'm being as annoying as possible in India here, spreading out and forcing him to pick and choose where to land. I think I did this because I didn't have odds to hold India, but it's been a while, so I'm not quite sure. So he went for a capture of everything. Wow. Yeah, that is... But he's sacrificing a lot of Asia pressure for it. I'm going to be able to push with Russia here. So he ditched Egypt, so the United States were able to contest that just fine. And I will be able to recapture India here, I think, when I clear Persia with Russia, and then send the UK tank to retake India. I'll, of course, contest as many territories as possible in Europe with the US, landing in Italy, France, and southwestern Europe. I unfortunately get pretty unlucky in Italy, not killing anything, and him hitting 2 out of 2. But that's life. I also get even more transports and infantry, because it's obvious at this point that this is going to be a pure slugfest in Africa, and I need the raw unit count. The other option is bombers, and I've experimented and had some success with them, but not in this game. For Russia, I see that he doesn't really have that much to contest up in the north, so I'm going to send some units eastward. I continue the march east in China as well, and as you can see now, the German pressure on Russia is basically non-existent. So I have a lot of freedom in where to send my troops. So I'm going to primarily be focusing on an income play to try and contest as much Asian income as possible in addition to European income, since pressure is low and the Japanese pressure on Russia isn't really there with all the fighter buys and the India capture. You can see pushing eastward, getting a new buy in Caucasus. I actually bought a tank here to be able to recapture India with Russia potentially. He's stacking both southwestern Europe and France, but this leaves basically nothing on the eastern front, so Russia is just free to do whatever. Germany has collapsed at this point, and which I define as not having any pressure on the eastern front. Collapse by round 5 is very early, so this is a very favorable early game for me, I think. And here I go for the retake on India, and UK starts to go for the bomber buys, because there's not really anything more to trade for UK if I just buy more ground, since there's only 2 provinces UK is able to hit this turn, Baltic and Northwestern Europe. So I'm going to use the excess income to buy bombers and bomb Germany and trade income pretty evenly that way. I recapture India. I think I have to sacrifice a fighter for it, but I get it. And I also trade the other provinces. Japan goes for a full-on recapture of everything again, but I spot that he only has 1 transport being able to, with actual troops in them. He has been so focused on this 2-turn offensive, he has no reinforcements backing up. And the lone Russian infantry is steadily marching eastward. it is round 5 and Japan has still not taken China. That is quite funny. So here I see that I'm going to clear the 2 infantry in Persia with the US fighters to try and recapture India with the Russian tanks, so that I can get a round of production out of India and force him to either sacrifice fighters or just let me have it on the UK turn. I recapture Transjordan. I clear the 2 Japanese infantry with only 1 fighter loss, but this means that I will have to sacrifice a transport landing in Italy. Here we can see also that I'm starting to slowly transition away from the Mediterranean and starting to dump units in Finland. This is to eventually build up some mainland United States stacks, since that's usually the primary win condition. A big US stack killing Germany. And here we go actually get to capture a coastline province with Russia in the Kill Germany first game. That's a real treat, a real rarity. And I go for the blitz into Caucasus from Caucasus into Persia to capture India from the Russian side, which is successful. I got lucky and didn't have to sacrifice any fighters. I also send a Russian contingent down to Persia to recapture it again, so that even if he sacrifices fighters to capture it from UK, I'll be able to once again recapture with Russia, produce with UK, and this is just now a losing battle for him. For UK 6, I go for an anti-aircraft buy to make retaking India as annoying as possible, and I also go for a 6-unit buy in Europe to keep the shuck onto the mainland going. I'll basically just be landing wherever he isn't. So here I'm landing in northwestern Europe, and I'm going to be landing in France with US afterwards. And we see the 3 musketeers in Belarusia. The thing I'm worried about here is that it is a Karelia stack cutting off the flow of allied units. Usually this is combined with some Japanese pressure on Kazakh, but this is totally absent at this point, and the income situation is pretty favorable, I think. Yeah, we can see here a very solid attack power lead and a very even more solid income lead, with the US at a casual 50 income. Here's the landings. I keep the Baltic stack going, and I deploy 2 infantry and an AA gun in India. And at this point, I'm pretty confident that I'm going to be able to secure the victory. You can see that even though he has 2 bombers, I'm leaving a single cruiser to try and bait him into trading. It has a 50% chance of shooting down the German bomber, and even though this is a good trade for Germany, allies have a lot of excess naval units in this situation, so trading them off for any amount of German air is favorable. You can see that Japan did not go for the retake of India. Instead, he went for a measly Burma land. He didn't even manage to recapture Kwangtung, which is pretty sad. And now I'm going to be landing in France, Italy, and southwestern Europe, and even sneak in the bombing run with the still alive original US bomber. And I was most worried about the Karelia stack from Germany, so I'm going to be stacking it as allies to secure it. I'm still pushing eastward as Russia. Now I just have a very solid income and attack power lead, so the rest of this game is just going to be me slowly pushing my advantage. I'm just going to be skipping ahead there a bit, starting to get a bit monotonous, landing again, buying another bomber, and once again I'm leaving India empty so he can take it, but I will once again retake it with Russia and then get the buy with UK, and it just seems hopeless for Axis at this point. landing more, trading more in Italy. He recaptured India with Japan. I'm gonna recapture with Russia. Still pushing in China around 8. And now it's just a slow, steady march to victory. He goes for a Burma stack, but the army advantage is now too big for allies, so they can just stack wherever. Round 9. You can see the attack power and the income is incredibly dominant. Still landing in Italy. Pushing eastward. Trading heavily with UK. Pushing in China with US troops now. I decided to get a big stack from Russia and pushed eastward. Usually I would set it up so I'll have a US stack pushing Germany and a Russia stack defending against Japan. But the Japanese troop count is so low and their income advantage so big that it's actually Russia just straight up pushing Japan. Landing more, building up the stack. And I pivot my northern and southern Russian stacks together into one big China stack to try and push Japan out into the sea. Continuing to push. The map is a beautiful multicolored mess. And here you can see that he's starting to get a lot of transports. So I'm suspecting that he's going to go for a Hail Mary play on the US, but we'll see what happens there. Yeah, he's got a huge concentration of troops in Manchuria. The United States stack is plugged in Baltic states, and I'm gonna get odds on Berlin in just a few rounds. And here we see the Hail Mary play. I've already pulled some fighters back from the Mediterranean, but he did get enough troops to where my fighters and a single round of production in the Western United States was not actually enough to defend. So I had to go for the dead zone instead. So my plan was to let him land and then kill his force after he has landed. And we see the counter to that again is to just land with a small force and trade it. Usually this isn't very good for US, since trading it at 10 IPC province to Japan just gives Japan a lot of income. In this specific case, it doesn't really matter. I also decided that to go for a cheeky play in the Pacific Ocean, running my US fleet through the Suez, building a UK India fleet to try and grab the islands as the final cherry on top of this game. I trade Western United States. And it looks like I'm missing the last few pictures, but the last turn of the game, he stacked Western United States with everything because I had a victory city victory lined up, and I attacked with everything. It was about a 95% battle, I think, and I did manage to win. So that is the end of the game. The most important part of this game, I think, was the India play around round 6. This here, where I managed to retake India, because if Japan holds India here, I think it has a decent chance to contest and continue. But I think this also showcases a weakness in Prince's strategy. He's a very strong player, obviously, having been able to go for the longest win streak in history of this game, I think, with 50-0. But going for Africa leaves Asia empty, so beware. I hope you've enjoyed this overview of my game. I tried to showcase my general strategy. A lot of what I've shown there can be used in other games, and a lot of themes go on throughout, especially this US3 timing. I always try to go for it. And I skipped over a lot of detail to keep the video short. You can see my buys in the right side of the screen. I did get some more buys for as he got more air. And I also shifted my stacks around in the background a lot. The key is to keep the stacks as far up as possible to annoy and keep the pressure on consistently, turn after turn, to grind down Germany over the course of anywhere from 5 to 10 to 15 turns, with the end goal of getting a big United States stack adjacent to Berlin and then capturing it. I hope you enjoyed my video. Thank you. Bye bye.